Okay, imagine yourself, you are a field guide and you have USA tourists, Canadian to be specific. And then they ask you a question. What is the indigenous importance of this tree? And then another question, irrelevant to the first one. They ask you, what is the rain dance? Why is it important? Remember, you're a field guide. You need to know these answers. Good morning. My name is Amanda and I'm very shy. I will walk you through my presentation. It is approaches to integrate indigenous knowledge in ecotourism curricula and field guiding. Now, what interested me, because you need to be passionate with what you investigate and what you research in, is that I realized that there was an absence of indigenous knowledge in the ecotourism curricula, which has led to that lack of diverse cultural perspectives amongst students, which then makes them less effective field guides. Now, before I continue to the aim, for those who don't know what indigenous knowledge is, it is that form of knowledge that is found in a place-based ethnic group or ethnic culture that is not influenced by colonial information. The aim of the study was to establish the rightful place for indigenous knowledge in ecotourism education and field guiding perspectives and practices. I'm just going to highlight 3 objectives. The first one, it was to explore methods to integrate IK into the ecotourism curriculum. The second one, it is to highlight the benefits of including indigenous knowledge for students and also local communities. The last one, it is to develop strategies for collaboration between academic institutions and also indigenous communities. Now, upon reviewing literature, we have to understand what indigenous knowledge is, and again, I just want to reiterate what it is so that we have an understanding that there's a difference between the Western knowledge system and the indigenous knowledge system. So again, this is deeply rooted in a specific homeland rather than one that is introduced into our curriculum. And its importance is that IK offers sustainable ways to interact with the environment, which is very crucial for ecotourism and conservation efforts. And if we all understand what ecotourism is, it is sustainable travel. And indigenous knowledge offers us those tactics, so why not infuse it? Moving on to an article by Adeyeye, I just highlighted one of the challenges, which is higher education often marginalizes, this is seclude, indigenous knowledge, focusing predominantly on Western knowledge systems. Now, when it comes to integration, the study did not propose the complete disregard of Western knowledge and Western education system. However, it is to help us understand that there needs to be a paradigm shift. That we need to understand that indigenous knowledge is essential for preserving our local culture as South Africa. That's why tourists come to South Africa, because we're unique. And also to enhance ecotourism education by involving the local communities in conservation and development plans. Indigenous knowledge systems has also stood the test of time, which is the colonial impact. And it has still, till this day, remained under-precedented in the global environmental policies. And you will find the citing under the Autonomous University of Barcelona, their paper in 2019. The current education system often overlook indigenous knowledge, which has then led to the gap that led me to investigating this whole gap of that cultural sensitivity and cultural awareness and environmental studies when it comes to indigenous knowledge. However, I just want to note, like I said, that it's not a complete disregard of Western education. We need to have a holistic approach to education, which is basically the theory that buttressed the study, to education which considers interconnectedness, integrating multiple knowledge systems to offer that comprehensive learning experience. Okay, the study was a qualitative interpretivist paradigm, which was used to explore the integration of indigenous knowledge into the ecotourism curriculum. Data was collected through through semi-structured interviews with 7 ecotourism lecturers and 11 field guides. And then questionnaires were distributed to 8 third-year students from the ecotourism department. The data was then analyzed using in vivo software, and it was presented in a sunburst chart and content analysis. Now, to the core of everything, which is the findings. So I'm just going to highlight 3 main findings, which is number 1, it was collaboration and community involvement. So this is looking at active participation of local communities, including the elders and indigenous knowledge custodians, to help us when it comes to curriculum design and curriculum teaching, and when it comes to indigenous knowledge teaching, because they are the custodians and they would know when we are planning our curriculum and we're trying to see what is fit for ecotourism, and also how we can blend that information or that knowledge with the indigenous communities, how we can best infuse that to make it more relatable and more empowering. Secondly, it is practical application, which is participants emphasizing the importance of cultural immersions. This is through field trips, storytelling, hands-on experiences to effectively integrate IK. Now, I just want to jog your memory for those who had that experience of growing up with their grandmothers and great-grandmothers, what we call okoko. You would sit around the fire and they would tell you stories. Until this day, if you think about it, you actually remember that story. So through storytelling, that's how we can also embed information, and our students can have, or us as students, can have that hands-on experience to remember what it's like, to have a feel of what it's like. And when you are a guide, you would then be able to tell that story more easily because you know firsthand. Lastly, it is curriculum development. So this was another recommendation, which is number 1, to include modules on a dedicated module on indigenous knowledge. This is basically specifically going to focus on indigenous knowledge, what it is, types of knowledge that comes with indigenous knowledge, how it can be applied in other studies, and then embedding indigenous knowledge in the existing curriculum. So we understand that ecotourism has wildlife 101, biology 101, practice, development, management. There is a place for indigenous knowledge in every single module. You can find a way to embed it into it, be it through examples, be it through assignments, be it through presentations like what we're doing now, to share a bit of that indigenous knowledge so that everyone can get a feel of their classmates' indigenous knowledge, and that can also be embedded, and it will make them better when it comes to field guiding. So in conclusion, incorporating indigenous knowledge into the curriculum is going to enrich our students, and it's going to enrich the education, therefore fostering that cultural sensitivity and also that pride in your culture as a South African, as an African, and support sustainable tourism practices. So this calls for that collaboration between these two worlds, academia and the indigenous. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Khumalo. This was Ms. Khumalo. Any inputs, questions?